I arrived early because I always do. It's a habit that stuck after years of being the person who made sure things ran on time, whether anyone noticed or not. The venue was a renovated estate, white stone, high windows, the kind of place that smells faintly of citrus cleaner and money. Staff were still adjusting chairs when I stepped inside. One of them smiled at me, polite and distracted, and asked which family I was with. I hesitated. That pause was new. "I'm the groom's mother," I said finally. "Oh," she said, surprised. "Of course, if you need anything, the coordinator is over there." She gestured vaguely, already moving on. I took my seat in the second row, not the first. That had been reserved, apparently, for the bride's parents, and by quiet extension, my ex-husband and his new wife. I didn't ask to change it. The chair was comfortable enough. The view was clear. I had learned, over the years, that insisting on visibility often costs more than it gives. When she arrived, there was a small intake of breath around the room. The dress was white, not ivory. Not champagne white. Floor-length, structured. Bridal, adjacent in a way that felt deliberate rather than clueless. She moved through the space like she belonged at the center of it, greeting people with the ease of someone accustomed to being deferred to. I felt something old stir, recognition more than anger. She caught my eye briefly. Her smile didn't reach it. Later, near the bar during the lull before the ceremony, she brushed past me as I reached for a glass of water. "Oh, sorry," she said lightly. Then, with a glance at my dress, my hands, my stillness, she added, "Could you let the caterer know we're running a few minutes behind?" "Thanks." I didn't correct her. Not because I couldn't. Because I didn't want to, yet. The word came a few minutes later, sharper because it was unnecessary. "The help usually comes through the side," she said, smiling again, this time for effect. Someone laughed. Not loudly. Not comfortably. I nodded once and stepped aside. There are humiliations that burn because they are loud, and there are humiliations that burn because they are designed to look like accidents. This was the second kind. The kind you carry quietly so it doesn't spill onto people you love. My son was radiant when I saw him next, tie slightly crooked, joy vibrating through him like a hum. He hugged me tightly, whispered, "You okay?" The way he always had, even as a child, when he sensed something off. "I'm perfect," I told him. And I meant it. In the narrow way that mattered most, nothing would touch him today. I watched the ceremony with full attention. I cried when I was supposed to. I laughed when the officiant made a joke. I stayed exactly where I had been placed. The envelope rested in my bag, thin and unremarkable. I hadn't planned anything dramatic around it. It wasn't revenge. It was responsibility. Weeks earlier, the wedding planner had called me directly, confused, apologetic. "We're missing the final authorization for the trust disbursement covering the venue," she'd said. "Your name is still listed as executor." I remembered signing those papers years ago, after the divorce, when my ex-husband's business restructuring had required a neutral party. I'd agreed because it benefited our son. Because someone needed to be steady. I told the planner I would bring the documents in person. The reception unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. Toasts were charming. Food was impeccable. I ate slowly, aware of the way I seemed to disappear between courses, a presence no one quite needed to address. Then she stood up. The microphone amplified her voice effortlessly. She thanked everyone. She spoke about blending families, about generosity, about how this wedding had only been possible because of so much behind-the-scenes support. She laughed softly, and of course, she said, glancing in my direction without naming me, "Some people are just better suited to helping quietly from the background." The pause afterward was short, but long enough. I felt something shift, not inside me. In the room, this was no longer a private slight. This was a public framing. Before I could stand, the wedding coordinator stepped forward, her expression tight but professional. "Apologies," she said into the mic. "We need to clarify one item before continuing." She looked directly at me. "Ma'am, may I have the envelope now?" I stood. The movement felt calm, almost clinical. I walked to the front without rushing, without looking at my ex-husband, who had gone very still. I handed the envelope to the coordinator. She opened it, scanned the contents, then turned slightly so the officiant and venue manager could see. "This confirms," she said, voice steady, "that the trust funding this venue, catering, and event logistics was authorized and executed by the groom's mother, who remains the legal executor and principal signatory." Silence isn't always loud. Sometimes it simply arrives and stays. She handed the envelope back to me. Thank you for your patience. I nodded, returned to my seat. No one clapped, no one laughed. There was nothing to respond to, only something to absorb. The new wife sat down slowly, the white of her dress suddenly conspicuous in a different way. My ex-husband didn't look at me. My son did. Confusion flickering briefly before understanding settled in. He smiled small, grateful, a little sad. The reception continued. Carefully, later, as people began to leave, a few guests stopped to speak to me, not effusively, not apologetically, just normally. As if a correction had been made, and everyone was adjusting to the updated version of reality. I left before the last sign. Outside, the air was cool. The estate lights glowed behind me, contained, beautiful, no longer mine to manage. I felt no triumph, no urge to revisit the moment. Just a quiet return to myself. Dignity doesn't need an audience. Sometimes, it only needs the room to finally understand who was holding things together all along.